Good morning. Back in New York City, back in my old surroundings. Not quite a week yet. And Israel is still on my mind. I was there. Somebody asked me, are they going back to parties in Tel Aviv? The answer is clearly no. Sure, they're going out on occasion, but not the whole country. My friend said, how could he go out and party when his daughter's friend's grandfather is hostage? Over 170 days. I met the families of hostages. I met the families of hostages who have been released after 51 days. And there is tremendous trauma. So imagine what's happened to the people who are in captivity for over 6 months. The results, mentally and physically, cannot be good. So, what did the war accomplish? Let's see from both sides. Israel was there. They were happy to employ Palestinians in the kibbutzim, especially the kibbutzim that were on the Gaza border. Palestinians were allowed to go to all their hospitals. In fact, when I was in Sheba Hospital, I saw a lot of Muslim families walking around. There are Muslim physicians as well. Nobody says anything. There is no discrimination in Sheba Hospital. You're injured, you have a disease, you got a problem, it's an emergency, you're treated. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, your religion, none of it matters. And Israel really has done that regularly for Palestinians, whether they were in Gaza or they lived within the Israeli community. Israel's a state. It's been a state since 1948. So when the Palestinians say they want the river to the sea, they weren't given the Israeli state. What they're looking for is genocide. And every couple of years, Hamas comes up with some kind of a solution to getting from the river to the sea, and they bombard the communities of Israel. Usually, it happens over a couple of weeks. That's the end of it. And everyone goes back to business as normal. But after the massacre of October 7th, there is no business as normal. Israel and Israel's people were violated. It is as if Hamas raped everyone in the society, not just the few people that they raped and murdered. And they're not a few, they're in the thousands. Everyone is traumatized, and everyone is insecure and wants their borders protected. Why do you think the IDF is going after Hezbollah to be preemptive, is going after the Quds general who is responsible for a lot of the murders in Israel? And now Iran says, oh, there's going to be consequences for going after their general. Well, how many consequences and revenges can you have? You've already set up Hamas. You've set up Hezbollah. You've set up ISIS in Iraq and in Syria. And you've set up the Houthis. How many times do you have to hit the world for it to be enough. And to add insult to injury, Iraq also supplies Russia with the missiles to hit the Ukraine. So, when Iran says there's going to be revenge for what just occurred to their latest general, what have they been doing all along? It's all revenge. It's been revenge since Israel and Iranians were friends in the 70s. Since Khomeini came into power, there's been nothing more than revenge. Because all that money that went to Hamas or went to Gaza, it didn't go to the people. 50% of the Gazan Palestinians are very wealthy. The other 50% are subjugated to Hamas. So all that money went to building a military-industrial complex. All that money, nothing to the people, nothing. So who suffered? Hamas isn't suffering. They're still lobbing missiles over the border to show that they're still around, and Israel hasn't gotten them yet. But what about the people who suffered from the bombs, who had no place to go? Just like the Israelis. Nobody's bailing out the Israelis. There aren't millions that are going to come to Israel's aid. And it doesn't look like there are millions who are going to come to the Palestinians' aid either. So it's going to be up to the two of them to somehow get rid of Hamas, get rid of Hezbollah, and all the other terrorist groups in the region, and come to an understanding. They're both occupying space in a region where nobody else wants them. And in order to do that, you gotta decide that you're not gonna murder each other. Understanding each other, having empathy for the other, that takes time, takes work, takes real trust, and that takes a lot of time to build up. Takes re-education as well. However, if the Palestinians aren't going anywhere and the Israelis aren't going anywhere, well, let's consider the last 70, 75 years a learning curve. And now we know you got a stalemate, and you got death on both sides and trauma on both sides. It's time to come to a Good Friday kind of agreement. And then each of you should be looking to the other to see how can we work together instead of how do we murder each other. The Good Friday Agreement in Ireland has lasted 26 years. That, to me, is the benchmark. May take the U.S., some of the Arab nations who don't want to be two-faced, who are no longer going to fund terrorism, but will fund real education, real infrastructure, and a new way of life for the Palestinians. You can say you love them, but until you do something to lift them up out of poverty and out of hatred, you really don't love anyone. Well, that's my goal. It seems to me enough is enough. I'd like personally to see all the hostages come home. And what happens the day after? There's a lot of scenarios I can come up with, and so can all of the politicians, if they care more about their people than they care about themselves. Thank you for listening.